Hi, welcome back to Woodhill Park. In this one I'm going to be playing with bushes. After my cab ride video, I noticed my layout is distinctively lacking in bushes and shrubs. So that's what I'm going to do in this one. I thought I'd have a go at making some. I got some good ideas from Gary at Cheeky Tech, and I'm just going to play about with his idea, which is a good one. So here we go with bushes and shrubs. First of all, I've been looking at where I placed my trees and shrubs and realising that I put them too random really. They're all over the place. To make them look more natural, they really need to clump, because you tend to get clumps of trees, clumps of bushes randomly. You don't get random trees poked here and there. So I've been rationalising where I put my trees and bushes, trying to create sort of little spinnies and little clumps out of the trees I've already got, and then starting to make some more to add to the layout. I've been experimenting with some of the woodland scenics. I think, what do you call it, fibre? Right, it's polyfibre. You can colour and make your own sort of fibre from stuff. You can make stuff in cushions and stuff. A lot of people do that, but you don't need a lot of it, so it's still not that dear buying it from wooden scenics. I had a go at making the bushes that Gary at Cheeky Tech recommended doing, and they come out pretty good, but I've expanded since, so I'll show you the bushes I've been making to improve some of the layout. First of all, you need to grab some coarse turf and some blended turf in various colours that you might want to push together to make a decent bush. You can add even static grass, even bits and pieces that you've got left over, rather than waste them. It can all go in the mix just to make a rough bush really. You can make some of this stuff yourself. I did follow a tutorial and make some of this coarse turf myself, which you make out of like a sponge you clean your car down with. But it's getting the colouring right, and this is my attempt. It's come out okay, but it's a bit bright, so I haven't been using it. I need to perfect making it really, but it is possible to make your own, and there's a few tutorials on YouTube telling you how to do it. So once I've got these items together, and in this case I'm using some sea foam, not the polyfibre, and it's just leftover sea foam from stripping out what is potentially trees, and then just rather than waste what's left, just make some random bushes with it. Right, to making the bushes. What I have been trying, but it's very wasteful, is using something like layering spray by WWS. But spraying it, you just waste a hell of a lot of it. But I mean, it works, but you waste a lot of scatter, well, not scatter, a lot of coarse turf and other bits of stuff, scenic stuff you use. But you can also spray it with something like display mount and then put loads of scatter over it. I keep saying scatter, it's a bit old-fashioned, isn't it? Coarse turf or fine sort of soil or anything you want, you can just sprinkle it over it. But when you sprinkle it over it, you get a hell of a lot of waste. So this idea that Gary at Cheeky Tech gave me with this container full of scenics, and also dip in it as well, because what I do is pour out some of the layering spray from WWS and put it in a tub, and yes, it gets all messed up, but you're not going to waste it, so you just keep using it time and time again and top it up if you need to. So all I do is choose a scenic foam potential bush like this and just dunk it. And as you dunk it, screw the lid on, slosh it about, nothing goes anywhere other than inside, round and round, and once you've thoroughly sloshed it round and soaked it, then with a pair of tweezers or something like it, just get hold of the strongest part of the bush, which should be the potential trunk of it, and then pull it out to the top of the container and then just tap it and remove any excess glue off it. Just keep tapping it until you're happy that it's no longer too soaked in the glue, which you don't want to waste the glue, plus you don't want it completely soaked. Right, once you've done that, put the glue aside. Probably best to put the lid on it. If you're like me and clumsy, you probably knock it over. And then get the bush, or the potential bush, and put it in with the scenics that you've mixed together, which are a combination of what I showed you. Any combination you want, really, any colours, but basically coarse turf and fine turf, and just give it a good shake. Keep it going for a while, make sure it penetrates right through. I mean, this worked with polyfibre pretty well for making a quick bush, but I find it makes a really nice bush with sea foam. So once you've done that for a while, in with the tweezers, get hold of the stem of the bush, give it another tap to remove any excess. Pull it out. Probably could do with a bigger container, with a bigger neck actually, but it works fairly well. Once you've tapped it, then it's just a case of putting it aside to dry. And when it's dry, you can use a varnish of any sort. I mean, I've got this matte varnish that you can spray over afterwards. I stopped using it on other things because it kept coming out a milky colour. So, but it's a spare tin, so you can use it to cover it once the actual bush is dry, just to make sure it holds it in place even more. But I found you don't always need it. It depends where you put it on your layout, whether you're going to knock it much, whatever. It does tend to dry and stay in one piece. Just with the scenic glue stuff, the layering spray. Keep forgetting the name of things. And if you can hear a noise in the background, it's my lovely neighbours having a drive put down. So there's somebody with a machine roaring away in the background. But I thought I chose a quiet moment. Anyway, you can spray this on just to sort of make sure you contain the foliage if you so wish. Right, there's one bush I did earlier, and it's dry, and it's pretty well bomb proof. There's not much coming off of that now, and it's just a case of gluing that down with a bit of neat PVA or whatever you choose, really, and just find a good place. I mean, it's a case of orientating it until you see a nice bush shape. Sometimes they don't look right sticking up or whatever, certain directions, but I think that's a pretty good bush myself. And I started adding these to my layout all over the place. As I said earlier, I noticed with my cab ride that I seem to be lacking in foliage here and there, so I suppose you could even do this with tree making as well. Yeah, it's a case of having a bigger container, because you're going to put a full size bit of sea foam in it, really, but it gives you a nice sort of branch effect because of the real plant, obviously. And I suppose you can add many colours to it. You can add sort of flowering colours if you wanted to, but you build these up in a big clump and they look quite realistic. So just an addition to what people are doing out there, really, and just something I'm doing to improve my layout, really. But just thought you might want to know how I've been making some of these bushes, and hopefully it can help you. Right, I'll just put a bit of neat PVA glue on the bottom of the bush now to add it to the layout, really. So just find somewhere where you think it's going to look quite good and random, and then it's just a case of pushing it in place. So, another bush, fairly cheaply made. I mean, it's only a case of buying the sea foam, which can be a bit expensive. I thought about growing my own because you can grow it, but I think that might be a long-winded way of doing it. But we don't waste too much material and glue, and you can make plenty of them. So I'm starting to add them all over the place. As you can see, background over there, more bushes, shrubs. But it's best to remember to try and make them random and sort of in clumping sort of formations, as you would see naturally. In the past I've not really thought it through, so I'm starting to scrutinise some of the scenery I do now and try to improve on it. I suppose the other way to do it is to buy some of this, but it's rather expensive, and the sea foam, once covered in foliage, looks very similar. And this stuff stinks as well. I don't know what it is, but it smells rather sort of a vinegary sort of smell, and it takes quite a while to go off. So the seafoam one, or seafoam method, to me is a much more pleasant way of doing things. But I won't waste this. This will be added as well, but I'm not sure I'll buy any more because it's rather expensive, as I said. You see how many you can make of these and how quickly you can make them as well. And I've got loads of glue left, even though it's contaminated, so I can screw the lid on and just keep using and using and using. And as for the foliage, I've got plenty left, even what I've just put in. So very economical. A few more to go on the layout. Just to add, the seafoam is probably the most expensive bit, but out of the box that I bought, these are just the offcuts, and I reckon I've got 20 trees set aside to use at some later date. So these are just waste really, so it's just a case of choosing bush shaped things out of this. So even this isn't too dear, so reasonably cheap way of making stuff, I think. Also with bushes and shrubs, I found the more you put together, the better things start looking. Because in nature everything's competing for space, and quite often there's not a lot of space left, so I find the more I put on, the better it looks. So if you only just put a few random ones on, it never seems to look right. So if you haven't got too many bushes, it's sometimes best just to put them in clumps and then gradually build up what you have got into sort of more foliage, covering more of your layout really. So I've got quite a lot of bush making ahead of me, but it's starting to look a lot better, I think. So I'm going to go bush mad, start putting bushes in a lot of random places, but in clumps. Probably a good example is the bushes and trees I did at the back of the TMD. You know, because they're all crowded next to each other and sort of heaped up very randomly, it gives quite a good effect. especially blending with the background. So it gives random sort of bracken and bramble look, I suppose. So, and I've been quite pleased with the way this come out. So I think the way to go is definitely more rather than less. I think the random colouring helps as well, so different colour bushes, different sort of types of bushes all pushed together does a reasonable job of mimicking nature. I've got quite a bit more to learn, but I think it's a good start in making bushes and trees, really. Hopefully I can improve. Layout's starting to look pretty good now with all these extra bushes and shrubs and trees I've been adding, and I think I will continue to make and add more. It just adds realism, really, as nature sort of grows everywhere, so you want bushes and trees and shrubs and weeds and all over your layout, really, just to give it the appearance of realism, really. I have just lately bought some trees from Toy Fair, which are quite formal ones, horse chestnut, whatever. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them at the moment. I'll just plonk them on the layout. So small ones and some large ones, including one that's fallen over already, but I will be probably sticking them in the baseboard. At the moment they've just got their stands they came on, which are not very realistic, but just for a variety of trees, I think they do add something. Also, I've got some different conifers and stuff as well that came in the same pack I bought. had a war memorial in the middle of my village. Just the odd details being added here and there really so far. It's all about the detail really. As you build the detail up, that's what starts to fool the eye into thinking, is it real or is it a model? Especially when you go down to eye level, you start looking across. When you come down to eye level, things do look that much real, or realer, more authentic, I think. Making up words as I go along here. So, yeah, an old steam engine trundling around at the moment. I used to have a lot of steam, and I do miss having a bit on the layout. So that's what I'm going to do in future. I'm just going to have excursions coming out of the preserved railway line engine shed, really. Right, just to catch up with what I've been up to, I've been working on a sort of, not a heritage line, but a heritage engine shed and storage yard area, which is above one end of my layout that I normally use for working on. So I've added an extra baseboard above the lower baseboard, and I've now sort of laid, I think it's 7 rail yard storage yard, which I'm gonna sort of at the moment label it as heritage come extra storage yard, but I fancy having a few steam engines come out of here for occasional running, but also just to store stuff in the future, extra stuff what I'm running on my 1980s layout anyway. So well, this is what I've been working on at the moment. Just a quick view from above. It's got 3-way points, which are not very prototypical, but definitely serve the purpose for a small space, accommodating multiple sidings. Also, I've been thinking about the hillside, one side of my layout, and been playing about a bit with the raised section over here, with just food for thought really. Got more to think about, but just put a few things together and just put a raised section over the lines, just to accommodate, which possibly may turn into some sort of town scene, but also accommodating some of the longer the rails from the storage yard as well underneath, just to get some extra length on the sidings. But it's all to be worked out really. Just a bit of a mock-up really, just to give me some ideas what direction I'm heading in, just to put it in perspective of where it is on my layout. It's up the far end, what I use as a workbench generally, but I'm quite willing to devote half of the workbench to this new siding arrangement. Some of it will be scenic and some of it won't be. Just providing me with some extra storage really, as well as a bit of food for thought for the future. I've also picked up this beautiful Swallow HST from eBay for a reasonable price, but still a bit expensive. The sound was okay as it came with sound, but I decided to upgrade it to mega bass speakers, and this has made all the difference. It sounds great now, and it's a good addition to the layout. As you can hear it starting up in the background, it sounds pretty good. Even though my blue and grey HST has the same Valento sound chip in it and mega bass speakers, but I can start them up individually as I got them on a separate sort of address system. But it doesn't matter, I didn't want to waste another address, because with this Dynamis there's limited space, so I think that will be the next thing on the cards, upgrading from a Dynamis to something that will hold more addresses in the future. But really pleased with this HST. It's beautiful and it's in perfect condition, and it runs like a dream. Excellent. So if I just pull it forward and slowly move off, that's it. I've got one Hornby coach behind it at the moment, but I've still got some old Lima ones which I'm quite happy with. As the Hornby coaches are an extortionate price, I'll pick them up as and when I feel, but the Lima ones suffice for now. They're pretty damn good for their age. I'm not afraid to weather them either, being that they cost nowhere near what the new Hornby ones do. Right, here comes my blue and grey HST, which is a beautiful model as well. I've got two driving in, so I've got two motors on this, because I bought two sets of the I can't remember what set it was now actually. I'll have to look it up, put it on the screen. But I'm very pleased with this set as well. These are Lima coaches. Here she comes, very slow crawl past the camera. Beautiful model with mega bass speakers upgraded in it, the Valento sound chips. So I've now got two HSTs in my layout, which is a must for the 1980s really, isn't it? I've got them on the same loop at the moment, the lower and upper loop, so I have to be careful one don't catch up with the other at the moment. But this allows you to see one pass after the other. And I think they're probably, if not my favourite, amongst my most treasured locos on the layout. As I said, what would the 1980s be without an HST Class 43? I've also added these container flaps to my layout lately, which are not really 1980s, but with a bit of rust weathering on them. Maybe I could get away with them, but they are later. It was a must-have really, because any 1980s layout is not complete without HSTs on it, including the Swallow livery for later parts of the 1980s. Thanks for watching again. Have a happy new year. Keep safe. See you again soon.